Okay, so I have started recording. If you would like to turn off your camera to be anonymous, that is fine. But we will go ahead and get started with our Bursar. And Jackie, I will turn the floor over to you.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Again, Bursar is just a very higher ed term for the director of kind of student billing, payments, anything you can think of. So I'll start there, just out for clarification. Let me get screen share going with you all. Can you all see my screen okay? Great.
Yes.
Okay. So what I kind of already just said, what are we doing in the bursar's office? So we do billing, payments, we offer payment plans, we do any refunding of excess financial aid. So if your financial aid is above and beyond what the cost of your bill is here at CU, we do the refunding for that. We do third-party sponsorship. We process VA education benefits. We do student debt management, which is more like if you owe a balance after the term is over, we work with you to resolve that. We do 1098-T tuition statements. We are located on the 5th floor of the Student Commons building, and we are open 9 to 4:30. And our contact information is here as well. So feel free to reach out after this presentation if you have student-specific questions, as Alicia had mentioned. So to start, all of our services can be accessed via the student portal. So that's going to be the most important thing for you to do, is to get in that student portal. And as soon as charges start hitting the record, you can start seeing everything for our services. And even before then, you can authorize College Opportunity Fund and do sign up for direct deposit and various other things even before that point. So to access your UCD portal, you do it on the home page, probably where you've all viewed, or if when you attend another orientation session, you will do that as well. And once you're in there, all of our services for Bursar are located under the money sign, of course, for the student account. And once you access that link, it provides another option to view and pay your bill. And so once you're there, that will jump you out to our payment site, which is called Quick Pay. So you will get email communications to the student email account. And if you sign up for an authorized payer, we'll talk about that in a minute, the parent will also get communications from an email address that is, it says @QuickPay. So just know that is from us here at CU. That is just our third-party payment vendor and servicer that we use to provide these services. So once you're out into the QuickPay site, that's what we call it. This is where you can see your live transaction details. So you can see any charge or refund or credit balance or financial aid applying to pay the bill. You can see all those details out here. And you can also enroll in a payment plan and then set up or modify your payments in this portal as well. And this portal is accessible to authorized payers and the student. So to sign up as an authorized payer, there's a link once you're in that portal. So students would have to log in first, and then they can grant their parent or guardian or whoever's helping them finance their education access to view this portal on their own via the authorized payer sign up. So once you sign up, it's pretty easy for the student to just add whoever they want to delegate access to. And just to be clear, when access is delegated to whoever that individual is, it will only grant them access to log in on their own to view and submit payments. It will not satisfy the FERPA, the Family Education Rights Privacy Act's requirement for calling in and chatting directly with us here at CU. That would be an additional step that would need to happen. So it's as simple as adding whoever you want to authorize to view or pay or do anything in that portal, their name, their email address, and then create a login ID. That's about it. And then you click save and it sends to that individual. So within that, Quick Pay in summary, so you can view and pay your bill. You can view every line item transaction. You can view statements. We do billing monthly. You'll get an email notification when those statements are available to both the student and the authorized payer. You'll get due date reminders. You can set up an authorized payer, like we just talked about. You can set up a payment plan. A student or an authorized payer can set up that payment plan. There's a $40 non-refundable payment plan sign-up fee at the time of enrollment. And then our payment plans are auto deductions. So once you sign up, it will prompt you to put in e-check information. So imagine that as just being an electronic version of your paper check. Just take the information off the bottom of your paper check, put it in there, and it'll process with no fee electronically and a lot faster. And then a credit or debit card payment can also be submitted or used for that payment plan, but it does charge a 2.85% service fee on all transactions. And our payment plans are auto deduction, meaning it will, once you sign up, it will automatically deduct from your account on the 20th of each month. And there's a couple different options. Starting in early August, you can enroll in a payment plan. That's when the charges start showing. They will start showing July 23rd or after. And then you can sign up from a payment plan at that point. Depending on the date of your sign up, you can have an option to pay in 4 installments, 3 installments, or 2 installments. So if you want more time to stretch it out, just be diligent to log in there before August 20th, and you can have the 4 payment plan option. And then this note is just stating that if there is a payment that does fail for whatever reason, it will reattempt on the 1st of the following month, and it will allow you to remain in that payment plan. If it fails twice, meaning the 20th and the following 1st, your payment plan will be canceled. Again, if anything comes up or anything happens, feel free to reach out to us as well, and we can help guide you. So electronic bills for the fall semester, you can start viewing those on September 9th. Sorry, I'm not sure why I got some drawings on there. So you can start viewing those September 9th. Authorized payers can view all transactions and make payments starting anytime after the charges start showing July 29th. And then the tuition due date is September 6th. So the most important date you can probably remember for our side of the world is the due date of September 6th, and the census date is actually September 4th. So 2 days before that. It's always the same week. And the debit and credit card transactions are a 2.85% service fee, but you do not have to pay those fees. You can always use an electronic e-check, and there are no fees for that as well at any point in time. So under just a quick synopsis, our tuition and fees, we do charge by course. So I just want to give that note out there. So it's dependent on the courses that you enroll in, which tuition rate would be assessed for that course. So the standard tuition rate, that is pretty much any course that's in your letters, arts, and sciences, your general education. This is just a quick synopsis. This is all on our website. But the resident rate is per credit hour, and then your college opportunity fund stipend, it is $116 per credit hour. You do need to apply and authorize for that. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but all of these rates are on our website. You can feel free to reach out to us as well for any additional questions. The other note is we do have the tuition for the courses, and then we have per term fees and per credit hour fees for some of our mandatory and course specific or program fees. So that's just another note. On our website, we do have all the breakdown for those as well. College Opportunity Fund, I've alluded to this a couple times. This is very important. This is free money from the state of Colorado to help fund your education. So if you meet the requirements as being an in-state student, you're taking undergraduate education, you can get funding for up to 145 credit hours. You simply need to apply with the state of Colorado. If you already have not done that, you only need to do that once, regardless of any institution or ever using it for concurrent enrollment or dual enrollment or anything of that nature. And then you need to authorize with us here at CU Denver one time, and that's within your student portal as well. And then once you do those 2 steps, it will automatically apply a credit to your student bill for that $116 per credit hour. And then this is the authorization piece, just as a quick review. It's also in your student portal. There's a link under that same section that says student account, and it says COF authorization/review. And that's where you would authorize it here with us at CU. And once you're in there, this is just a quick screenshot of what it'll look like. You literally just check a box and click save. One time ever, and it'll automatically remain. The other portion is about refunding. We do send credit balance refunds. So if you had more financial aid apply to your bill than what your charges are, that's when refunds would be generated. And we issue refunds twice a week for checks. So meaning if you did not opt for direct deposit, you would get a paper check in the mail mailed only twice a week. Direct deposit is the preferred method. It's the most secure method. And we do send those nightly. And you can sign up for that in your student portal as well. This is just a quick screenshot of where you sign up for direct deposit. It gives you a notice. Make sure you confirm your direct deposit details with your bank before you fill that out. Otherwise, what will happen is your refund will be pushed out. We'll get returns from our bank, and then we'll reach out to you and say, hey, this is wrong, check your information and update it. Third-party sponsor billing. So that is for any external entity that we at CU are billing on your behalf. So that can be an employer, the military, a prepaid college plan that requires billing, anything of that nature would come through our department in third-party billing. So all the details on that are on our website. Here's the link. It's quite long, but you can view everything in third-party billing. The big note is you have to fill out a request to us every single term that you need us to bill on your behalf under that sponsored student agreement form. And that is also in your student portal. So once you log into the student portal, you'll see the view and pay your bill tile as before. On the end, you'll see another one for sponsored student agreement form. If you're using billing from a foreign government or entity, or from the VA, you do not need to complete this form. Those have separate processes. Reach out to us if you are in one of those scenarios and we can guide you for that. VA education benefits, again, we do processing. We work in coordination with our Veterans Student Affairs Office, but we process all of the Chapter 33 and Chapter 31 benefits here in our department to directly credit the student bill. The other chapters are processed through our VMSS office in coordination with us, but we don't credit the bill directly for those, as those are paid typically directly to the dependent or beneficiary. Our VMSS office contact information is here on the bottom of the screen. That would be your initial touch point for any of those benefits to start processing, and then they work in coordination with us to get everything moving on our side. Bookstore charges. So we do have a bookstore charge program here at CU Denver, meaning if you expect to receive financial aid or you just need some time and to get everything in order, but you need your books, you can go to our on-campus bookstore and you can charge the cost of those books directly to your student bill here with us up to $750. So when your financial aid does come in, that can pay directly to pay those bookstore charges. Or if you have another funding source that is going to pay, or another relative or somebody else that's going to pay, it can just roll all those charges together. Just note, if you have financial aid that is going to pay these charges, you do need to grant Title IV authorization and to allow those financial aid dollars to pay those charges. And that is an authorization that is in your student portal under the student account section as well. So the last statement that I had, to circle back to my previous comments about FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, you do have to fill that out for any individual that you would like to talk on your behalf to the university for anything. There's a specific option in there where you can allow financial information or just grades or just academic information. So just make sure you fill that out with specific information for any individual that you'd like to be able to call or email us here directly at CU Denver about your billing information. And we check that before we respond. So just make sure if you do want to authorize anybody, you go in and do that prior to contacting us, just to make everything a little bit more streamlined. And that is in your student portal under the profile tab. Once you get in there, there's a FERPA release that you just fill out. That's just the consent, and then you give some information. And the last thing that we do here in our department that a lot of people are interested in regularly is our 1098-T tuition statements. We do issue those once a year before January 31st per the IRS requirements, but they are also emailed to the student's email address as a PDF, and you can access them in the UCD portal once they're generated. So in your student portal, we do not paper mail those out. So just as a note, you will get it electronically in your student email account or in the portal. And family members, unfortunately, because it is a secure tax document, we cannot forward that on to anybody, even if you're on FERPA. It has to remain in the UCD encrypted emails or in the portal access only. But if you have any issues retrieving that, feel free to give us a call and we can work with you to get that out to you. And that's all my information. Here's our contact information. Again, we are on the 5th floor Student Commons, and email and phone is the fastest and easiest way to reach us. But if there's any other specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
There are a couple questions, Jackie, I've been taking note on. The first one is 529 plans. How do those work? Does the money go directly to the school? And is there a fee for if the 529 pays to the school?
Great question. So 529 plans it depends on who the plan administrator is. So that's always my first step, is to say, contact the plan administrator to ask them how they disperse funds. Typically, a lot of 529s just need a billing statement that we would generate and send out to you. And then you can send that to your plan administrator and they will issue a payment to us directly, typically. And usually it's mail. There are some that do it electronically and will send us funds electronically. And then there are some, a very small population that require billing, and that would be through our third-party billing department, like Florida Prepaid, Texas Guaranteed. A couple of those are in that bucket. But I'd say contact your plan administrator, step one, and step two, reach out to us if your plan administrator doesn't give you the information that you need, and we're happy to help you. And there is no fee. Sorry, there is no fee at all. I didn't address that part. No fee at all. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Another question, is there a longer payment plan for more than 4 months?
Unfortunately, at this time, we do not offer more than 4 months because the charges do not show. Oh, my screen died. I'll just stop sharing. We don't offer more than 4 months because the payment terms the term needs to be paid for in full before it ends. So that's why it's 4, is because then it's done by the end of November to give enough time for the next semester's enrollment and everything to start, because we do require that the balance is below a certain threshold to allow enrollment for the next semester. So that's why it's 4 currently.
Great. And then just a clarifying question. When will students be able to view their bill for fall?
So you can view charges. You can log into QuickPay through the student portal, and you can get in and sign up your parent or authorized user in advance of that as well. But the charges you can view starting July 29th. Official billing statements won't be issued until a little later, but the only difference is that's like a PDF version of the snapshot of the account at that time, but you can always view the live transaction details in your live balance any point in time, 24/7 via that student portal or authorized payer login after July 29th.
Great. I think that is just about everything. Let's see. If we need a specialized payment plan, do we contact you guys to work that out?
Yeah, you can go ahead and reach out to us. We don't specifically have specialized payment plans. I'll preface that statement. We have the payment plans that are offered directly, but if you need to work through one-off other options, you can definitely reach out to us.
All right. And then just one last question. Can you clarify what the COF covers?
Yeah, College Opportunity Fund is only to pay towards tuition. It's a non-refundable kind of item, meaning it's $116 per credit hour that the state of Colorado gives for undergraduate resident students to offset the cost of that tuition. So it is applied directly to the bill and will pay down that tuition cost directly.
All right. And then just another clarifying question for COF. You do have to authorize that through the student portal. Right now, if you are a fall admit, it is a little bit too early to authorize your COF. The orientation office will send out an email to new admits in June, reminding them to authorize, and we'll put screenshots and a video to show you all how to do that. So right now, it is too early. Once you do your authorization, it is a lifetime authorization, so it should automatically be applied every semester you're enrolled. Okay, and I think we are about to the halfway point. So Jackie, if you want to just take a look at some of the questions, I think we answered most of them, but we are going to switch over to our financial aid presentation. So Ryan, I will go ahead and turn over the virtual mic to you so you can get started on some financial aid info.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Grodman. I'm the director of the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office here at CU Denver, and I have a whole bunch of information to go over. So I'll go through it, and then afterwards, there should be time for us to answer questions. But I'll also provide contact information so that if you have questions that we don't get around to answering, you know how to reach out to get those answers. So let me share my screen. Perfect. All right. So as I said, Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. The things we'll go through, and I'll delve into more detail here in just a bit on each of these, but we are responsible for financial aid, for scholarships, for work study. There are other forms of aid that also come through our office. I will also explain what the cost of attendance is in relation to how much aid you can actually receive. I will go through a sample award letter, and I'll provide some updates on where the FAFSA is currently at and where awarding is currently at. And then, as I said, I will go through some contact information. So So the things that our office does, we administer all federal financial aid, which is what you receive after you apply for the FAFSA. If you're eligible, you can receive various forms of federal financial aid, which I'll explain in a moment. We also manage all scholarship funds in some capacity. There are a lot of different kinds of scholarships, but every scholarship comes through the scholarship office in some way, shape, or form. We also administer all off-campus work study from start to finish, but we also do add the awards and manage the award process for on-campus work studies. And then we do reconcile and make sure all the funds are nice and clean and accurate. And then we provide all the customer service for financial aid, for scholarships, and for student employment. So it's a lot of different things that happen within the financial aid and scholarship office. So financial aid is a pretty broad term, but generally when we say financial aid, what we mean is federal financial aid, which is also known as Title IV. That includes both grants and loans. So there are several kinds of grants that come from the federal government. The most common of those is the Pell Grant. That is applied for with the FAFSA, and it's given to students who have the highest level of need. And that's based on the number you get at the end of your FAFSA, which is called the SAI, or Student Aid Index. It used to be called the EFC, or Expected Family Contribution, for anyone who's done one in previous years. But going forward, it's the SAI. We also do provide the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. That's just a fixed amount of dollars the government gives, and we divide it evenly amongst students who have the most need. And then students can also apply for the Teach Grant, which is provided to students in specific teaching programs. Those grants are unique because while they do provide funding to teachers that they don't have to pay back, the requirements for that are that they agree to serve in a area of need, so usually in a low income or rural school. If they don't meet the requirements of teaching for a long enough period of time, that turns into a loan and you repay it like a normal federal student loan. And then we also do provide the Iraq and Afghanistan service grant to dependents of those who served in those wars who were impacted by those. And then there are federal loans as well. So there are several kinds of federal loans, both the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You do not have to pay while you're enrolled in school. But the subsidized loan has the added benefit of interest does not accrue while you're enrolled in school. So as long as you're enrolled at least half time taking classes, you can receive the subsidized, unsubsidized loan, and you will not have to make payments on it. And the subsidized loan doesn't accrue interest. The unsubsidized loan does accrue interest while you're enrolled in school, but neither one requires you to start making payments until 6 months after you stop attending, which hopefully means you graduated, but it could mean if you withdraw or drop out for any particular reason, or if you just start taking classes below half time, you're considered to be in a repayment status, and then you have 6 months before payments start. The PLUS loan is a little bit different. It's also applied for. You have to do the FAFSA, but you have to do a second application, which involves a credit check. That one is available to parents to co-sign on with students. There's also a graduate version of that loan where graduate students can sign for one for themselves, but both of those PLUS loans do require a credit check, and you have to reapply for them every 6 months. So if you get one in the fall, it's good for fall and spring, but if you want to go for summer, you'll have to reapply to get that one as well. So those are all of the different federal fund sources that are available, all require the FAFSA. If you have trouble completing any of those, feel free to reach out to the financial aid office. We can help walk you through the differences for those. But yeah, that's that. And then we also handle a bunch of scholarships. So There are several kinds of scholarships, but the main categories are institutional scholarships. Those are ones where the dollars are provided by CU Denver or by the University of Colorado. They're managed by the university, and we select the students and then apply all of the funds to student accounts after they've been selected. There are also private scholarships where the money doesn't come from the University of Colorado, but it comes from an external agency like the Denver Scholarship Foundation or the Boettcher Foundation, some of these larger agencies. But private scholarships are unique because generally the students are selected by the university. So Denver Scholarship Foundation selects their own students, but Boettcher Foundation and Reicher Scholarships, those larger organizations, we select the students, we use the money provided by those organizations and apply it to your account. And then there's also external scholarships where the money comes from the outside and those agencies select their own students and then they just send us the money, whether it's via check or whether it's directly, but we just receive the money from those organizations and apply it to your account based on a list we get from those organizations. And then there are, of the institutional scholarships, there are about 500 that are managed within our office. And the difference between a college administered scholarship and the FAFSA or financial aid and scholarship, office administered scholarship, is pretty straightforward. There are a lot of scholarships that are managed through specific colleges. So for instance, the business school has their own group of scholarships, and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences has some, and the School of Education has some. So they each have their own scholarships where they select the students and then just let us know who they chose. The Financial Aid and Scholarship Office also manages about 150 scholarships where we select the students and apply those funds to your account. So there are a lot of different kinds of scholarships. All of those can be applied for through Scholarship Universe. The easiest way to find it, if you just search CU Denver and scholarships, the first thing on that page is a link to the Scholarship Universe website. You do need to be admitted to the university because it requires you to have a student email address to actually get in there and start applying. But once you get in there, there are several thousand scholarships available between all of the different institutional, private, and external scholarships. So get in there, make sure you apply for as many as possible, because the more you apply for, the more chance you have to get awarded a scholarship. And generally scholarships, almost every scholarship does not need to be repaid. So as long as you're attending and you stay enrolled in your classes and complete the semester you got the scholarship for, it applies to your student account. You don't need to pay it back. So scholarships are a great option. Once again, if you've got questions, I'll give you contact information, but we do have a scholarship team that's available to help with scholarship questions as well. And then we also manage work study. So work study, there are two different kinds. There's the federal work study, which you have to complete a FAFSA to receive. And then there's state work study. The major difference between the federal and state is that a Colorado work study or state work study, you have to be a Colorado resident. Otherwise, the requirements for work study are pretty straightforward. You have to be enrolled with CU Denver. You have to be enrolled at least 6 credits or at least half time in the semester. And then you'll have to actually apply for and get a job. So that part makes it a little more complicated than some of the other funds available. But work study dollars are great because they're kind of a supplemental award. They pay every 2 weeks, just like a normal paycheck. And they're really great to pay for some of those additional financial educational expenses that arise that maybe are beyond just tuition and fees and textbooks. So a great option for you. And then there are two different kinds of work study. There's on campus, which means you're working for one of the branches of CU Denver. So whether it's with one of the colleges or one of the different departments. And then there's off campus work study, which most of those are actually on the Auraria campus, but they're through at like the Tivoli Student Union or at the Auraria Library or at the King Center, or we do have students who work at Metro State or Community College of Denver. They're not directly through University of through CU Denver, but we can still pay for those positions as well. And all of the requirements are the same for on or off campus. It's just a matter of which one you'd like to work in. So those jobs can be applied for through a Handshake job board, which is managed by our Career Center. I do have contact information for them as well at the end of the slide, but if you have questions about work study, we do have a student employment team as well and a different contact, so you can reach out to them. They can help you with any work study or student employment related questions. And then there's various other things. This is just kind of a highlight of the different things that are available. And these are obviously in addition to all of the different things Jackie spoke about, like 529s and veteran benefits and tuition assistance. But we do have a large allocation of state grants available to both undergraduate and graduate students. And we also do process a wide variety of private loans. So private loans you apply for directly with the lender that is providing the loan, whether that's a bank or a credit union, or there are a lot of other agencies that provide student loans. We don't recommend any specific lenders necessarily, but we do have a tool on our website that can help you kind of compare which ones are available. Private loans, though, are usually one of the last options we recommend because of they usually have higher interest rates than federal loans. And obviously, if you're eligible for grants or scholarships, we apply those to your account before any loans get applied. We also can do consortium agreements. Those are a little more complicated, but you do have the ability to take some of your classes at other campuses if it's not offered at our campus, and we can actually pay financial aid for those classes through your normal student account. But if you have a question about that, if you'd like to take, a few extra classes at a different campus or a different college, feel free to reach out and we can help you walk you through the process and see if you're eligible. There are other partnerships out there too. If you've got questions about them, we're happy to discuss them. But most of those partnership agreements, generally the payments will come through either our office or Jackie's office. So reach out and let us know. And then we do also work with study abroad because we know that there are additional costs related to study abroad programs. So we can actually adjust your cost of attendance, which I'll explain here in just a minute. And we can increase the cost so that you can get additional financial aid to help cover those additional travel and educational expenses. So a lot of different things that are out there and that we can assist you with. And then, like I said, I'll talk about cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance is generally broken into two different categories. So there's your direct costs. Those include your tuition, your fees, and then if you're living on campus, your on-campus housing and dining plans. Those are the things that are paid directly to the university that we know what the cost is going to be. So we can apply the exact amount to your student account. Those are generally your financial aid is applied directly to each of those things on your student bill. And then there's indirect costs. So indirect costs include things like off-campus housing and food, transportation, personal expenses, books and supplies. If you do take out a loan, it can include loan fees. But indirect costs, we don't necessarily know the exact amount. So we use averaged amounts that are given to us by the state of Colorado. If your amounts are different than what the averaged amount is, if they're higher, you can always reach out to our office and provide some information on what the true cost is, and we can always adjust what the cost of attendance is. But otherwise, we just use the average amount for the city of Denver, which is usually amongst the highest in the state. So generally, it's a pretty good allocation for off-campus living expenses. And the way the cost of attendance works is we add your direct costs and your indirect costs all together, and then you get one cost of attendance for the year. And that is how much financial aid you're eligible to receive amongst all of the sources of your grants and your scholarships and loans and tuition assistance and any other payments that come through. We add those all up and you can get as much financial aid as your total cost of attendance all added together. Now, keep in mind that your cost of attendance may be very high, but that doesn't mean that's exactly what you're paying for school. Generally, the tuition and fees are only a third to a half of what the actual cost of attendance calculates as, because we know that you have expenses that you don't necessarily pay directly to us, but that are still important for your education. So keep that in mind when you look at your award letter, because it'll have a cost of attendance, but that is not what your tuition and fees are. That is the full amount of all of these different categories. So here's a sample award letter as an example of what you'll see. This one is still the 23-24 since we're still in that year through the summer semester, but it'll look basically identical to this for the 24-25 year going into the fall semester. So it's broken really into two different sections. It's the type of financial aid you're receiving, and we break that into the grants and scholarships up at the top, and then the loans that you're eligible for at the bottom. So grants and scholarships, we add them and then we accept them if you're eligible on your behalf, because we assume if you're getting a grant or a scholarship, of course, you want the grant or the scholarship. But loans, we add them, but we don't accept them for you. So you'll see them on your account, but you actually have to go in and say you want all or some of the loan. If you don't want the loan, you don't have to go in and do anything. It just will never pay. But you can also go in and say, I want none of my loan and zero it out. It's up to you how you want to do that. But if you do want to use any of those loans on your account, you do have to go in and say, yes, you would like to use them. Otherwise, we won't pay them because we don't want to make the assumption that you want to use loans. We just put them on there so you know what you're eligible for. On the next page of your award letter, you'll see the cost of attendance. So you'll see at the top the direct expenses. In this case, it's just got the tuition and fees added together. If this student was an on-campus student, it would also have the housing and food listed there as well. But it will break out the direct amount that you will have applied directly to your student account, and your financial aid will pay automatically. And then you have other educational expenses. So we assume that this student is living off campus. They're getting an estimated a little bit over $7,000 for housing per semester, and then additional amounts for transportation, books and supplies, and then personal expenses. So there's a pretty good allocation per semester. Additional expenses. Ooh, there we go. Additional expenses that are out there that you can get financial aid to help cover. Generally, after your financial aid pays, it'll cover all of your direct costs. And Jackie mentioned the financial aid authorization. So if you've authorized any of those additional charges, it'll pay those as well. And then any funding that's left over from any of the types of funds, grants, scholarships, loans that you received will be released to you. So make sure, as has been mentioned, and we will mention it several more times, make sure that you enroll in direct deposit, because that is the quickest way to get those additional funds sent to you so that you can start covering those additional expenses. There's one more little section that'll be on the side of your award letter that just has some basic information on how your awards are calculated, what your enrollment status is. Make sure when you get your award letter, you look at it, make sure everything looks right, make sure your residency status looks correct, make sure your enrollment status looks correct, all of that, because if anything is incorrect, we definitely want to make sure it's updated so that everything is accurate on your account. So a couple very important things to consider. Some of these overlap with what Jackie said, but they're important, so might as well say them twice. Make sure you know what your actual costs are. So your tuition bills will be available in the UCD Access portal generally in July and January. It might be a little off depending on when the start date is, but generally July or early August and then January. So get in there and make sure you know what your costs are. Make sure you know how you're going to pay for it. If you have questions, reach out as early as possible so we can make sure that we can get you set up with all the aid that's necessary to help cover your tuition. And then make sure, as I said, with any loans you want, that you go in and accept your aid, because you may be awarded loans to cover your tuition and fees, but if you don't accept them, it'll never pay, and then you might get late fees and it turns into a mess. So make sure you go in and accept loans if you want to use them. And then, as Jackie said, make sure if you want your financial aid to pay things other than tuition fees, that you go in and authorize those financial aid charges to apply your financial aid to those charges. And as I have said, make sure you enroll in direct deposit. It can take a few weeks to get a check by mail. It's much quicker to do direct deposit. We process it on a regular basis, whereas we only process checks once a week. So it's important you do that. And then the most important thing, which is down here at the bottom, the number of credits you're enrolled in does impact your financial aid eligibility. So to get loans, you need to be generally enrolled at least half time. Your grants and scholarships can be prorated based on how many credits you're enrolled in. So the more credits up to full time, which is 12 credits that you're enrolled in, the better. And keep in mind that after you start your classes, after you've been paid financial aid, your awards can be reduced if you drop your classes, if you withdraw from your classes. Just because you've been paid doesn't mean that you're eligible for the money until the end of the semester. So you need to make sure that you stay enrolled in the number of credits you started in as much as possible, because you may be required to repay some financial aid that you received if you change your enrollment status in the semester. So a couple FAFSA updates, and then I will wrap up and answer some questions. So just because I know this is top of everyone's mind, the FAFSA was a complete disaster this year. I think everyone is aware of that. The Department of Education made some changes to try and make it easier. I think in the long term, it will be easier, but it was much harder this year. So generally, the FAFSA each year opens in October. This year, it didn't open until the very last day of the year on December 31st. And even then, it only opened for some students. It didn't even open for everybody. It was generally available to everybody to start completing the FAFSA in mid-January. There were issues with the identity confirmation and signature pages. Those are mostly resolved, but I know there are still students who are having issues signing or having their parents sign, especially if the parents don't have social security numbers. Those can only be resolved with the Department of Education. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about the signature pages. So if you are having trouble, please make sure you reach out to the Department of Education and they can reset your FAFSA and make sure that that signature page is taken care of. The FAFSA information actually, even though you could do it in January, wasn't sent to schools until mid-March. So us and every other school in the country didn't receive any FAFSA information until about March 15th. And then we were able to start processing, but the Department of Education then quickly reached out and said they actually calculated everything wrong. So they had to redo it and resend it, which actually pushed all of the information out to April. So we didn't get correct information until about mid-April. And that's when we started processing FAFSAs and being able to review and see what student eligibility is. If students have anything that needs to be corrected by the school, or if we need to update any of the items because some of it might not be correct for any particular reason, we can't submit corrections until July of this year. It's another issue the Department of Education is having, but we can still help you figure out, what impact any changes might have on your FAFSA. But I apologize on behalf of the Department of Education. We have very little control over any of these issues, and every school is having the same issues across the whole country, but it has definitely impacted students. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to my office. We can help you as best as possible, or at least help you get to the right place to get your issues resolved. The positive side of things, because we got all those FAFSAs in April, we were able to process most of them. And we were actually able to start awarding students late last week. So we were able to award every student who was at that point eligible. And now that that process is running, every student who becomes eligible daily will get awards added generally within about 24 hours. The awards that we're adding to student counts are those federal and state financial aid awards, as well as some institutional grants. So we do have a few institutional awards that we add as well. We are going to continue to award scholarships as they get processed, as we get, as students are awarded and accepting those scholarships throughout the summer up to fall, we'll add those to student accounts. And then as students become eligible. So if you have a FAFSA that is not, that's rejected and you still need to do something with the signature page, as soon as that's resolved and we get the FAFSA, we'll be able to add awards to the account all throughout summer. And then also, as if you haven't done a FAFSA too, if you submit your FAFSA, we can still award you all the way up till term start. So please make sure that if you haven't done your FAFSA, you do it as soon as possible, but please know that there's not a deadline to complete your FAFSA until next June. So at any point, if you feel like doing the FAFSA, I recommend doing it because it's how we determine eligibility for just about every award that we give out. And then please also make sure you keep an eye on your email. So your award letter will go out usually within about 24 hours of you being given financial aid. The award letter is what we looked at earlier. And if there's anything that doesn't look correct, please reach out and let us know so that we can review your account, preferably before the term starts, so that we can fix any issues as quickly as possible for you. But it might go to, it's whichever email is primary on your account. So if you have not been admitted or accepted to the university yet, you can check your personal email account, but otherwise it should go to your CU Denver email account, because that's, once you're admitted to the university, that is your primary account. And the last slide is just contact information. So if you have a question of any kind, you can send it to the financial aid inbox. So financial aid at UC Denver is our standard inbox. If you don't know where it should go, just send it there and we'll make sure it gets to the right place. But generally, that's the one for any kind of federal or state financial aid, grants, private loans, study abroad, just about anything. For scholarships, you can send them to scholarship at UC Denver. Make sure there's no S at the end of scholarship. It's singular scholarship at UC Denver, and we can answer any scholarship related questions there. And then anything related to getting a work study award added to your account or making sure that you get paid, you can send to the student employment inbox. That's student employment at UC Denver. But if you have questions about actually getting hired for a job, it's managed through the Career Center. So that one's actually career center at ucdenver.edu. So those are all the different contacts that you can reach out to. You can also always reach out to Link Central, which is our one-stop to answer questions about financial aid, or the bursar's office, or the registrar, or student advising. They answer kind of a little bit of everything. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out and we'll happily answer anything that you have. And any questions you have now, I'm happy to answer as well. But that is the end of my talk. So thank you.
All right, we do have some questions, and I think you've answered this. But if you can just re-clarify, when
Sure.
do we find out if they've been awarded financial aid? And is that emailed or mailed?
Yeah, so you can view it in your student portal. So once awards have been added, you can go into your UCD Access account and click on the financial aid tile, and it'll show you if you have awards on there. But you should get an award letter within 24 hours of the awards being added to your account. So once the awards are added, the system automatically reviews everything you have, adds it into that award letter that we looked at, and then we'll send it to the primary email address you have on file. So generally, it's your CU Denver email, but if you don't have one yet, then it would be the personal email that you either did your application with or that you did your FAFSA with.
All right, another question. Can my parent acquire a PLUS loan from me if I'm considered an independent student?
No, they cannot. So unless you're a graduate student, no independent student can get a PLUS loan. And a graduate student doesn't need their parent, it's just the graduate student. But otherwise, a PLUS loan is only for dependent students. And if your parent, there's one other small thing to know. So it is credit based. If your parent, for some reason, is not approved in the credit check, it actually increases your eligibility for the unsubsidized loan, which is a slightly better federal loan to apply as well. So for undergraduate students, though, usually if you're eligible for Pell Grant and for any of the federal or the state financial aid, and if you're using a subsidized loan and an unsubsidized loan, there's usually not room left in your cost of attendance to receive a PLUS loan as well. So that is a little bit of good news, but generally no, only dependents, undergraduate students, or independent graduate students can get the PLUS loan.
All right. And then can you apply for work study at any time, or does it have to be the start of the term?
You can apply for it at any time. Funding is somewhat limited, so we get some money from the federal government and some from the state of Colorado, but the money is not unlimited, so it is first come, first serve generally. Usually, if you apply for it before the fall semester or during the fall semester, we should have funds available. But if you're applying for it partway into the spring semester, we may have run out of spaces available for students. So it is good to apply as soon as you know you'd be interested in using it. But it is not necessarily required to apply before the semester starts.
All right. And then if someone updates their FAFSA application, if let's say they did it this week, just yesterday, would that mean that they would not receive an updated award letter until July?
No. So if this, you all can submit corrections if you did something incorrectly. Although keep in mind that if you make changes to things that are like your tax or financial info, it could trigger you to be selected for a process called verification, which means you'll have to submit additional documentation so that we can verify the information is correct. So make sure that any info that was transferred over from the IRS, you leave in place because that's generally the correct information. But if you can submit corrected information on your FAFSA if you accidentally put something in wrong, and we'll get the new copy within a couple days. Usually it's 2 to 3 days, and then we can reprocess it. We just can't submit corrections on your behalf, and we can't make adjustments if, for instance, your income is different now than it was based on what you reported on your FAFSA. We can technically adjust that to make it more accurate to what your current financial situation is, but we can't make those adjustments until July because of the issues with the Department of Education.
All right. And then another question about student loans. If a parent is also in college and is already receiving a Pell Grant, would that affect the student in receiving a Pell Grant?
No, the Pell Grant doesn't look at the parents or anyone else's financial aid awards. It's all based upon need. So as long as everyone in the household is calculated to be eligible for Pell Grant, you all would have your own bucket of Pell Grant that you can use regardless of what anyone else is using.
Great. And then a couple more questions. We are getting close to time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's evening. Um, is the FAFSA only for US residents?
Uh, For the students, yes. So you do have to be a citizen or an eligible non-citizen, and there are a few different categories of that. But generally, if you are here as a permanent resident or in any other kind of permanent status, you can do the FAFSA and you'd be eligible for federal student aid. If you are a DACA or asset student, you actually will complete the CASFA, the Colorado version. We can direct you to that as well if you have questions. But if you just search Colorado financial aid application, there is a separate one for students who are in those particular statuses. But if your parent is a non-resident, it doesn't matter. That you can still complete the FAFSA, but the student does need to be a citizen or eligible non-citizen to get federal financial aid.
Right. And I think we've gotten through most everything. So this might be a good chance, Ryan, just to remind folks, what is the best way to contact an office for financial aid questions or loan questions, grant questions, all of those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to reach out to us, generally is email, financial, and we answer emails within 24 hours, so you'll get an answer very quickly. And that's to every one of those inboxes. But financial aid, all one word, at ucdenver.edu. Scholarship questions can go to scholarship@ucdenver.edu. Work study questions, student employment at ucdenver.edu. You can also call our phone number. It is 303-315-5969. And that will get you over to a staff member who can help direct your question to the right place. But generally, just for simplicity, emails are easy because you can get a response pretty quickly and you don't have to wait on hold for any period of time to get your call answered. And you can also come in if you want and speak to a Link Central representative. And then we will have very shortly appointments that you can schedule on our financial aid website as well. So keep an eye out for those. They're not available right now, but they'll be available in the next few weeks. So you'll be able to schedule a time if you need help directly from a financial aid advisor.
Great. I think that is most everything. Got some answers in the chat. We are going to, so folks that have specific questions, I know there was a few things that were in the chat that were very specific to the student record or account. I do recommend that you email the offices. We don't want to just divulge that information in front of everybody. So it is best to email. They will follow up with you within 24, 48 hours. And so there was another question about the recording of this video. So I will go ahead and pause right now.